Hello and good morning, and welcome to this morning's session on Teaching English Radio India. This is a joint presentation by Rustom Mody and Amy Lightfoot. Rustom is a senior teacher trainer for West India based in Mumbai. He's been working in ELT since 1997 across Western Europe and India. Amy is the English language advisor for the British Council in India, and she's based in Delhi. Both Rustom and Amy have been focusing on digital resources as one of the main aspects of their work. So without further ado, could we start, please?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. First of all, I'm going to play you a very short clip from the Teaching English Radio India series. And I'd like you just to think about what is Teaching English Radio India.
Teaching English Radio India,
a radio series for teachers of English.
Brought to you by the British Council.
I'm going to try to play you a clip.
Welcome to the very first program in our series
Sound
for
on,
teachers
please.
in India. I am Manisha Dag, and I'm a teacher and a trainer. If you are an English teacher and you face the challenge of large courses, then this is the series for you.
Let me start it again.
You'll meet teachers from
Teaching English Radio India,
a radio series for teachers of English.
brought to you by the British Council.
Can you have a little more volume, please?
Welcome to the very first program in our series for teachers in India. I am Manisha Dag, and I'm a teacher and a trainer. If you are an English teacher and you face the challenge of large classes and few resources, then this is the series for you. You'll meet teachers from Assam to Karnataka, from states across the length and breadth of India. They share their ideas and experiences to make teaching more effective. So let's meet some of the teachers who will join us for this first program.
Hi, I'm Deepali from Pune, Maharashtra.
I'm Mala from Rajkot in Gujarat.
I'm Altaf from Raichur in Karnataka.
I'm Nidhi from Bhopal.
I'm Radhika from Mumbai.
Okay, thank you. As you heard, Teaching English Radio India, it's a series that contains interviews with Indian teachers talking about issues in Indian education, Indian schools. Just to give you a little bit of background, the British Council created Teaching English Radio in 2010. This featured teachers from all over the world talking about classroom challenges and solutions in their contexts. We tried this program with a group of teachers in India, and we found we had mixed results. Whilst on the one hand, the actual topics were relevant, we found also that the Indian teachers didn't really relate to the issues that teachers in other countries had. We therefore took the decision of creating our own Teaching English Radio, specifically using Indian presenters, Indian teachers from across the country. We therefore recorded teachers from everywhere, from Assam, from Shillong, from Delhi, from Mumbai, from Maharashtra, from Gujarat, from Tamil Nadu, from Karnataka, where else? Various Kerala as well. And the result is Teaching English Radio India, which will be launched next Monday, tomorrow, in fact.
So, hello. Okay, so one of the questions that we get asked quite often is, why do radio? And in fact, Rustom was asked the other day by one of our master trainers, why are you using radio? It's like going back 50 years when we've got all these other opportunities to do digital resources. But, I mean, although radio is an old method of distributing content, audio content, it's been proven to work very well. And of course, we can get a very wide reach with it. So we also, the reason for doing Teaching English Radio and creating the resource in the first place was that with our projects in India, we do large-scale teacher education projects. And the face-to-face training that we do as part of these projects tends to be relatively short. So teachers and master trainers will come and have training for 5 or 8 days in a year. And we're trying to develop the portfolio of resources that we have on offer for these teachers to support their learning, to support the things that they're trying out in the classroom outside of that relatively short face-to-face training that they receive. So it's one of a wider portfolio of things that we're able to offer to them. The other thing about creating it for radio with an audio focus is, in fact, it's a little bit misleading calling it radio. And after we completed the project, we realized perhaps we should have called it Teaching English Audio instead. Because while our focus at the moment is on broadcast and putting it out through radio broadcast partners, we've also recognized that we can put it out in other channels, for example, with CDs, like the one that you will have received in your conference pack. We're also looking into putting it onto USB sticks to distribute those, and also on SD cards so that teachers can put it into their mobile phones. Another thing that we're looking at doing, which we will eventually do, is putting all of the content onto our website and to bundle it onto tablets, which are being increasingly used by teachers in schools as well. One of the things that we've also looked at is how we think teachers are going to be able to use the resource. And while, of course, it could be quite an individual activity, what we're hoping is to be able to encourage teachers to use it in small groups, or perhaps even in larger groups, to have a more experienced teacher or teacher educator facilitating sessions with teachers who are quite new to the concepts and ideas that are being introduced. We've also developed some wraparound content, some worksheets to accompany the series, and Rustom is going to tell you a bit more about those.
Thank you, Amy.
Just before he does that, though, I'll tell you about the topics. You can see here, these are the topics of the first series. So we've got a series of 12 programs at the moment, and we've also got a second series, but we'll be working on putting that out later. I'll just let you have a quick read through those topics.
Okay, so research suggests that listening to an audio program with some sort of written support helps teachers retain more information and understand the program better, particularly when their language level may be, we're aiming at around an A2 or a B1 level. So teachers who have around that level, the worksheets can certainly help them understand and retain the content. So we've created a workbook which contains 12 worksheets. These worksheets can be downloaded both individually and as an entire workbook. And the workbook also contains a summary of each program, a glossary, some additional resources, and also the answers to the questions in the worksheet, and some suggested answers as well. In particular, it'll give some definitions of the sort of useful ELT vocabulary terminology that crops up in the program. So, for example, looking through, we have things like elicitation, group work, collaboration, these sorts of words which an A2, B1 teacher may or may not be familiar with. This will give them a definition. Next. So we're going to focus a little bit more on program 2 of the series. This is entitled Planning Your Lessons. And we're going to just listen to about 5 to 7 minutes of this, basically to give you a better idea of what the worksheet contains and how it works. So does anybody have this book? It was given to you all in the conference pack. How many people have? Okay, wonderful. For the rest of you, I'm going to give you the volunteers will pass around some photocopies, so please pass them around. For those of you who have the workbook, please could you look at page Page 10. Page 10. Okay, so before listening to the program, typically each worksheet starts with a quotation. This one, as you can see, it starts off with a quotation from the National Curriculum Framework 2005. One of the aims of our project is to support this curriculum framework and to make teachers more aware of what it really means. So there's a quotation from there and also from a teacher, Shurya from Jamshedpur. What I would like you to do is, working with a person sitting next to you, so working with a partner, I'd like you to discuss questions A and B. Okay? And I'll just give you, how many minutes would you like for that? How many minutes? 2 minutes? Very quickly. So working with a partner, just discuss A and B, please. Thank you. Yes, we will listen afterwards. These are things to be done before listening. Then we will listen to the program. Thank you. To work in a... Sir, would you like to discuss with... read and then discuss? Yeah. Thank you. That's enough, no? We'll stop there and we'll just... I won't elicit things. Should I elicit or not? No. No point to elicit. Yeah? Okay, very quickly. Okay, thank you very much. I'll stop you there. Hello. I'll stop you there. It sounds like there's some interesting discussions going on already. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. So, did you agree with these two sentences? Would any one person would like to? Yes, there's a general yes, that's good. Do the units in your textbook have clear objectives? No, from over there? Somebody else? Yes. Somebody else?
It's not always possible that the objectives are always there in the book.
Yes. Typically, we work with teachers from across India, and it actually varies according to the state. In some states, there are very clear objectives. In some states, there are objectives, but they're not clearly mentioned. In some states, there are not objectives, and it depends on the year as well. Great. Let us. The purpose of this was really kind of to warm you up for the radio. So now, I'd like you just to read through section C. If you just read through the questions very quickly, and then I will play a clip from the recording. Okay? So just 1 minute to read through the questions. Okay, so I'm going to play around 5 to 7 minutes of the clip, not the entire program, which lasts 15 minutes. Please listen and fill in the blanks.
Teaching English Radio, India.
a radio series for teachers of English.
Brought to you by the British Council. Welcome to the program. Are you sitting comfortably? I'm Bibash Dash, and I'll be introducing the ideas of many teachers from around India. And here are some of the people we'll meet today.
My name is Deena. I'm from Madikeri in Karnataka.
Hi, I'm Shaurya from Jamshedpur in Jharkhand.
I'm Ajay from Delhi.
I'm Sukanya from Guwahati.
I'm Anuja from Gwalpara in Assam.
If you joined us last time, then you'd have met my fellow presenter, Manisha. She discussed how Indian schools are moving towards a more learner-centered approach. Teachers are now encouraged to give students lots of opportunities to really participate and practice their English. But of course, in most state schools, teachers have to use a textbook, which often has a lot of material to get through quickly. And our lesson times are short. On top of that, we have large classes and very different levels of ability. So, the question is, how can we put these learner-centered ideas into practice and make sure our students get the most out of each lesson? Well, that is what we are looking at in Teaching English Radio. We are sharing the thoughts and ideas of teachers and trainers who meet this challenge every day. And they tell us that an important step in the right direction, and our topic for today, comes down to planning. Yes, our subject is planning our lessons. And what do teachers think about it?
Failing to plan is planning to fail. So it's like if you don't know what you're going to do in the class, it becomes really difficult for the teachers as well as for the students to actually focus on the activities of the class.
The main thing is the objectives. The objectives should be clear before the lesson.
Teaching is a very planned activity. It's supposed to be done before a teacher enters the class, not at the point when he's teaching.
What do you think? Let's first meet Deena. She is a teacher, but she also trains others.
Planning the lesson is very important for teachers because every lesson or maybe every unit in different states have a competency or an objective to achieve.
Deena explains that all the different education authorities provide a textbook and a syllabus for schools to follow. It's a framework, and every unit in the book supplies texts and language that teachers are asked to cover. So, our starting point for lesson planning is to understand the learning objectives of the units in the textbook.
It's a good idea to plan your lesson so you will be able to achieve those objectives by the end of the unit. This helps you to achieve key areas maybe in grammar or vocabulary or pronunciation or any other topic that you're looking to work with. Planning definitely allows teachers to anticipate any problems that might arise in their class and be ready to face those problems.
When we've planned our class in advance, we can go well prepared for the problems that will arise. Teacher Shaurya agrees. And she says you should share your objectives with your students as well.
When you're preparing, it's very important to understand the objective of the lesson. If it's not clear, make sure that you clear it in your head so that when you go to the class, your students are told well in advance that by end of this class, we will be learning nouns or we will be learning verbs. So it should be simple and clear objective which can be achievable in that specified time.
Shaurya says that objectives should be simple and clear, and you must be able to achieve them in the time that you have planned. If you have students at higher levels, then you can help them by sharing your objectives. To identify your objectives means looking carefully at your textbook or teacher's book if you are lucky enough to have one. You must then check what new skills and language are being taught in the unit. It is helpful to think about the aims of the lesson in terms of what students should be able to do by the end of the lesson. The purpose is not just to rush through the material, but to be sure that the students have learned something new in English. For example, by the end of the lesson, they'll be able to ask for permission using expressions like can I, could I, and may I. Or, by the end of the lesson, they'll be able to use the new vocabulary to describe traffic and discuss the topic of busy roads.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was around 5 minutes, or around a third of this program too. What I'd like you to do very quickly, just compare your answers with your neighbor. We didn't have time to answer all of the questions. I think maybe the first 4 or 5, was it? Yeah. Just quickly compare your answers. Okay, thank you very much. So then you can check the answers at the back of the book, and you find that number 1 was objectives. Yes, objectives. Number 2 was students. Number 3 was textbook. And number 4 was very good, very good. Excellent. So you can see how this kind of helps you focus a little bit on the listening. And if you're doing it in a group, you can actually discuss with your partner. And if you're doing it alone, you can check the answers at the back of the book.
There's also, we're not going to go into it now, but as you can see on the rest of that page, then it goes into more discussion questions. And some of the programs have additional resources which are at the back of the workbook, like lesson plans or just additional ideas that teachers can try out. So someone just asked me as I was wandering around just now about which teachers in particular this is aimed at. And it is aimed at teachers across India and possibly also of use to teachers across the region as well, although we focus on Indian teachers and Indian classrooms for the series. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there's various different ways that we're distributing the content. We're starting off in February. It actually launches on Monday. Is that right, Rustom? In
yes.
Maharashtra? And that's launching in Maharashtra in partnership with a radio broadcast service there. And it has a potential audience of 400,000 teachers and master trainers, some of whom have attended training through our Cascade project that we're running there, both primary and secondary school teachers. Some of them will be teachers who haven't been involved in the projects, but we're hoping that through the publicity campaigns that we've got, that we'll be able to reach teachers beyond the projects. We've also distributed the CDs and the worksheets, both here in Hyderabad. Like I said, you've got the pack in your conference bag. We've also given those to the teachers, master trainers or teacher educators that we're working with in Punjab. And we're also hoping that we're going to be doing some radio broadcasts in Karnataka shortly. What we're aiming to do is that from now on, with all of the teacher education projects that we do across India, we'll be able to embed this content into those. And because of the nature of it, the fact that it's flexible in terms of how we distribute, we're going to look at different ways of doing that and continue to review and revise and see what the most effective way of doing it is. And also try to keep track of how people are using it, whether they're doing it more individually as a self-access thing, or if they're actually putting it in working with groups. And we're hoping that maybe some of you here might be able to give us some feedback on whether or not you've been able to use it yourselves.
Thank you. So it's early days in a way. We've completed the production of the series, but we've yet to really broadcast it. Starting tomorrow, that will happen. But already we've learned quite a few lessons. We'd like to share a few of these lessons with you. First of all, while actually creating the series, it was difficult to know, well, there was a tension, shall I say, between whether we should have a very structured series, really, really structured thing, or whether it should be more spontaneous. And what we've decided was that when it becomes very structured, it's like an audio book of the textbook. And as these teachers are already attending face-to-face training, we decided to go for a different angle. So in the different angle, it's more kind of discussing around the topics, and there's also space for classroom interactions, actually recordings from classrooms, listening to activities being used. So I think this approach works very well. Were it too structured, it would then be the same as what they're already having in training, which is working with materials. The production process itself, the recording, as I said, I traveled across India with the UK consultant, Francis Cox, and we recorded teachers all over. That process itself maybe took, I'm guessing, at around 2 months. Which was quite quick. However, then the editing of the programs, the production of the worksheets, the approvals, the drafting, the proofing, everything of the worksheet, this took a very long time, over a year. So anything, it seems like it takes not so long, but in reality, it takes a lot longer. Thinking about the publicity, I'm talking specifically about Maharashtra here. We already have ideas. We have shared flyers, we have shared posters for schools and for block resource centers. We are publishing adverts in local newspapers. We're using social media as well to share the message, emailing. It can be used on FM. In Maharashtra, it's being used on Akashwani, on medium wave, primarily medium wave, and it's also available on shortwave bands in districts where there is no FM. It depends, actually. Another lesson, in fact, is that Akashwani and other broadcasters, they have different schedules for each district. So we cannot actually say that it will be at 10 o'clock everywhere. Each district has its own time and day. That's the way it works. So this is another lesson, in fact. Thinking about the publicity, though, we came up with this plan, and then luckily we actually asked our master trainers for some more ideas, and they came up with so many more great ideas of how to publicize the series, such as using the government's newsletters, such as specific websites that education officers have, etc. So one lesson is everybody talks about involving stakeholders, but actually do it. Another really important and interesting area is monitoring and evaluation. Understanding what is happening, etc. And there are a lot of challenges there, and Amy is going to talk us through them a little.
Yeah, so the monitoring and evaluation of this resource is one of the areas that we've become very, very interested in. As I said, this is one of a wider portfolio of digital and self-access resources that we're developing and using within our projects and around our projects. And so for this area in particular, we were very interested to look at it in some detail because we knew that it would help us with planning for similar projects in future. So we were discussing how best to discuss this and talk about it with all of you, and we thought maybe the best thing to do would be to ask you to have a quick think about, first of all, which aspects of the radio program or the resource do you think that we should be monitoring and evaluating? So I'm just going to ask you again, if you just want to have a quick discussion with the people around you, if you were us, or if you were doing a similar project, or just thinking it from your point of view, what do you think it is that we should be looking out for when we're doing monitoring and evaluation?
Yeah.
Yeah, when are we going to have it? I mean, because some of the...
I think planning, if teachers do the planning very well, then I think
Any ideas? How can we monitor and evaluate this series? What things should we be looking at? I think one thing is the numbers. How widely used, that's the thing.
What's a good time? You know, what's a good
the time, the frequency, yeah. These are good points, yes. Hi there. Any ideas of how we can actually monitor this? What things should we be looking at?
Actually, we have already mentioned some problems, no? These are important to be monitored. Very, very, very important. Even I am being from Sirsa, even I face that publicity is a very big issue. Very big issue.
Publicizing, are we reaching our audience?
I'm sure, sir, I'm sure you did some research on 15 minutes. Why 15 minutes capsule?
Good question. Yeah, please save that question. If we don't get a chance now, we'll have questions at the end. So please ask that.
Okay, so I'd be interested to hear some of your ideas. If you want to just shout them out, and I'll say it into the mic so that they can hear on the webcast. Well, I heard lots of good things being talked about. What were some of the things? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are different models in different parts of India. One of them is the radio and face-to-face training. So especially in case of face-to-face training, actually, because there are content specific areas like eliciting or group working. So 1 or 2 areas can be selected and a sample can be taken from that. And what is the current status? Are they doing the same practices or what is the current practice in the classroom? There can be a focus discussion or a baseline kind of thing. I'm not sure how long this project is. Maybe if it's a 1-year project, there can be after 6 months there can be a midline, or at the end there can be an end line. But I'm not sure about other models like distributing the CDs to the teachers or about the radio. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, so there's a couple of interesting points in that. Thank you. One is that obviously with using a multiple distribution channels, we need to keep track of which ones seem to be more effective, whether there are issues just with the logistics of distributing things, and whether there's ways that we can refine that to make it smoother and to work better. But the other point that I'd like to pick up on that you mentioned is about, it's basically about what impact it's having on people's actual teaching in the classroom. And it's something that we've been kind of going round and round and thinking about a lot. One of the issues with any self-access resource or anything that you're kind of putting out there is how do you know that what you are, that the information that's within that resource is what is actually making a difference in the classroom. And as I said at the beginning, this resource is actually part of, I mean, although we're hoping to reach teachers who don't come to our face-to-face training, most of the monitoring and evaluation we'll be able to do is with the teachers that we do have some connection with. And so they're already receiving some face-to-face training from us. They might be accessing other resources from our wider continuing professional development portfolio. So how do you attribute the change in the classroom to this particular resource? Even if we were able to go out and do observations in the field, specifically looking at the areas that are covered here, it would be very, very difficult to say, okay, because we did this Teaching English Radio product, these teachers have therefore made X, Y, Z changes in the classroom. So there is a tension there because obviously we want it to make a difference, but we have to be very realistic about actually what difference we can expect from this single resource, and we need to see it within the wider context of all the other work that we're doing. Yeah, Shivangi?
I think the first thing is, especially with the distribution of this through radio, to actually see how many teachers are actually listening to it and using their workbooks. I'm not sure how would one capture that. I don't know if Akashwani will give you actual figures, or is there a way to track it, or if you can kind of ask teachers, you know, there could be a call to action in the workbooks. Once you complete it, go onto the website and...
That's right. So yeah, so numbers, and we'll talk through. I mean, we as I said, we've thought through this quite extensively and had lots and lots of discussions about it. Lots and lots and lots of discussions about it. And Rustom's going to talk in a moment about exactly what we decided to do. But I think this point that you made about numbers, that's the kind of obvious thing to think about. But what we worry about is we don't just want to count numbers. We don't just want to find out how many people listen to the broadcast or how many worksheets, how many workbooks we've distributed, et cetera, et cetera. Because, I mean, yes, it makes us feel good. You know, 400,000 people listen to the broadcast. That's fantastic. But it doesn't actually tell you whether it's actually doing what we want it to do, that if we're achieving the objectives of the project. So I just wanted to kind of... yeah.
If this medium did not work,
you
know, if it did not give us the numbers, or and then if it did not have the impact, then you can kind of eliminate this and move on to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so we can do it from that point of view. And like I just heard you said, the timing of the broadcast. So there's all sorts of issues. You know, if you're doing it through radio, is the reason why it didn't maybe reach as many people as we wanted it to because the time wasn't suitable. So we need to find out about that. We need to find out if we're distributing CDs. Is that the best way to do it, or is it better? Are teachers more likely to use it if they have an SD card to put into their phone? So once you start unpicking it, you can see that there's all sorts of issues around it. And the danger is that you end up focusing so much on all of the issues around logistics and distribution channels and the rest of it, that you have to remember sometimes to come back to the content and thinking about whether the content itself is actually what you need to be able to get the ideas across that you're hoping to share. And we did do that initially through a pilot. Rustom did quite an extensive pilot with both the audio resource and the worksheets. They went through several iterations to make sure that that was relevant to the audience that we're targeting at. But as I said, it's a very complex area and something that we've become very, very interested in.
Ma'am, one doubt, ma'am. Is it to replace the regular classes or a special class?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Is it to replace regular classes in the school, or is it a special class for the students?
It's
radio class.
It's really aimed at teachers as part of their professional development. So the idea is not that the teachers will play it with their students. The idea is that teachers will play it for themselves or with groups of teachers working together. So it's to give teachers ideas to be able to use in their classrooms, things that they can do with their students. But the actual resource itself, the audio content and the workbook, it's not intended for teachers to go into a classroom and use it with their learners. But actually that raises another interesting point that we should be careful about, is making sure that teachers really understand the purpose of it, because we don't want teachers going into a classroom, copying the worksheets and giving it to their students, because that's not what we're aiming it at. So thank you for that. That's a good point. I'll just take one more comment now, and then I think we'll move on to the next bit. So just one second.
Ma'am, are you planning this type of broadcasting for other parts of country also? Or not?
Yes, so we are looking into broadcasting. As I said, we're looking at various different ways of getting the resource out. But we will make sure that we're communicating to people in the different areas when we do get it broadcast out. Okay.
Okay, so as we said, there are many challenges, and we'll have there will be some time for questions at the end if you have any further questions about any of this. Just give you a quick overview of what we are doing in Maharashtra. As I said, the broadcast is starting tomorrow. First of all, we have master trainers across the districts. So in order to find out if actually the program is being broadcast correctly at the right time and the right program across the 20 different stations in Maharashtra, our own master trainers will be giving us reports about that. We also have paper and online feedback forms that listeners can fill in. There will be these forms will be distributed to some teachers, other teachers they will be communicated the link, various ways of communicating that form. The form, as we said, focuses on many of these different areas, including whether teachers actually can remember the points, whether they can recall the content of the programs. Also, we will be looking at a representative sample of 350 teachers from across the state. So from that sample we can infer certain things about the greater population of teachers, although again generalizing these conclusions is problematic. Also, to understand exactly what impact we're having in classrooms, we'll be aiming to create around 10 case studies of teachers who have taken things and implemented them in their own classrooms. Again, these findings will not be generalizable, but it does give an interesting insight into what is potentially possible. Also, we have kind of data from the website, how many workbooks have been downloaded, how many clicks, where these clicks came from, when they happened. So there's that sort of data. And as somebody mentioned, potentially we can have information from Akashwani themselves, although it's not yet clear exactly whether that will be forthcoming. I think we skipped Okay, this is the website. It's available. If you go to britishcouncil.in/teach, you can then click on this website. You have a short sample there. You can click. Then you can have there's the feedback form. You can download the worksheets, and for Maharashtra, you can download the schedule for the state. what we'd like to look at finally is that you and other teachers have this workbook with the CD in it. This is for you as teacher educators to use in your own states, etc. One way you can use it is to listen to the programs yourself and fill in the worksheets. This is great. However, as your teacher educators, you can also use it with teachers you work with staff, etc. We just have a few minutes. Again, with your partner, or maybe with a different partner, would you like to just discuss this question? How can you use your workbook and CD with your teachers? So we'll just give you 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get some ideas. Yeah. If you must have the work in your book, but yeah, it's slightly different. Each one is slightly different depending on the thing. The thing.
There's an intro. There's
typically, yeah, but the question form is different. Sometimes it's questions, sometimes it's matching, sometimes it's filling in the gaps, sometimes it's ticking boxes, true, false. Okay. There's 3 or 4 different approaches. Okay. We actually interviewed, so was interviewed for the series, I think in series 2. Yeah. Is that enough? Yeah, a bit more. Okay, thank you very much. I can hear lots of discussions. Would you like to share any ideas, what you think is feasible? Does anybody have any suggestions how you could use it?
Actually, I'm from British Council, Bangladesh, and we are planning a kind of a training program for madrasa, faith-based schools. I think this kind of materials will be appropriate. But I'm just a bit concerned because, you know, faith-based schools, madrasas in this part of the world, they are a bit, we'll have to do it a bit more contextualized, but maybe changing the names, doing scripts, things like that. But I think it's really workable, even, and it has a kind of liberty of using it in different multi-platform CD in an SD card, so that's ideal for South Asian teachers.
Thank you very much, sir. Somebody else? Excuse me, the lady behind.
I'm an English language teacher from Sirsa, Haryana. What I can do is, after reading all the sessions, I can do is I will study the CD, I will read it, I will learn the things, then I can have a session of my colleagues. A session where I can teach all the things to them so that they can also introduce all these learning outcomes to the classes. And then I guess we can achieve so many things from all the batches. So this is my way to use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because when it's about sharing with other teachers, it doesn't necessarily have to be, let's all sit down together and listen to the program and do the worksheet. It could be that you do the worksheets, or a teacher does the worksheet and they listen to the program themselves, and then just a very informal discussion about what it was that they heard in the program, or one idea that they particularly liked.
Yeah. Yes.
It's an idea which many of you can share. Is a timetable is so planned that in a particular day, all the English periods, all the English teachers are relieved from their thing, and we have a department meeting. So all of you can plan your timetable so that at a point of time, all the English teachers get a platform, and then that's very easy for me to really execute it. So if that's a very good planning of your timetable can make a difference.
Thank you.
Yes. The basic idea is just to equip teachers with all the training skills, and many of us have been master trainers in various states, and obviously the training and teaching that goes on continuously. So this is, I think, going to really help us in setting up our activities in the training while training to our fellow teachers further. So great.
Thank you, sir.
See, Rustom and Amy, I was wondering if I couldn't share the idea with my audience in Nepal on 25th and 26th.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you'd like to be in touch and to discuss it further, we can give you our email address.
And I would love to contribute to producing materials for the program if you like. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I believe that these generally relate to English language teaching methods for the teachers, but do they also have applicability to other subjects like, say, mathematics or social studies?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Should we just have a quick look back at the program topics, because before I answer. So some of these you'll see, I mean, I should stress that they are all taking place in English language classrooms, but many of these things are relevant to any classroom. And in fact, for the primary school teachers, most of those teachers do teach across the curriculum. So things like pair and group work, even using the textbook creatively, you know, it's something that they can apply and transfer the ideas to their own subject, to other subjects. I think it does take a little bit more of a leap for some teachers to be able to think about how those ideas transfer across, but I think there definitely is definitely some scope to do that. But it's a good point, something maybe we should think about more for the second series, about highlighting the possibility there. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Many of the schools may have just one teacher of English.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, that's right. They might just have one teacher of English, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Could we have Simon at the back, please?
Yeah. First of all, congratulations to the team, because I think you're killing many birds with one stone. The thing is that this can be applied to so many other subjects, because I feel that where I'm going to practically start off on next week itself, because it's got fantastic scope for discussion, further discussion. So thank you so much. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you. Another question, anybody? About, in particular, focusing on how we can use this. Let's come back to that point. How we can use the CD that you have. How are you going to use it? Okay.
Questions are fine. I think we'll be happy to answer anything.
You've trained about 4 lakh master trainers, right, in Maharashtra for this. So are they all 4,000? Sorry. So are they all from English medium schools? Because most of the teachers in government schools, they are not comfortable in English. And when I heard the clip, it was completely in English. So what sort of feedback have you got from teachers who are teaching in vernacular medium?
Okay, that's a very good question. Just to clarify, in Maharashtra, we have trained on 3 of our projects. We have the ELLIPS project, the ELIS project, and the EFA project in Mumbai. I think it's 98,000 teachers are attending our face-to-face courses, and that includes around 1,000 master trainers. The statistic 400,000 is referring to the rest of the teachers in Maharashtra. There are 5.8 lakh teachers in Maharashtra, most of whom are primary and most of whom teach English. In terms of the language levels, the programs are pitched at around an A2, B1 level. Even if the teacher does not understand 100% at an A2 or a B1 level, they can follow it. And with the worksheets, they can understand and retain the essential content.
One of the things that we also thought about when we were developing the worksheets is whether or not we wanted to do some bilingual support, which is something that we've looked at with other products. Obviously, that has its own challenges, particularly in India, as you know, the different states with different majority languages. And then if you start thinking about minority languages as well, you have to be a little bit careful about which languages you choose to translate into. But it's something that we do continue to revisit. The only thing that we thought is if we started putting bilingual support into the worksheets and then teachers listen to the programs, which are at, I would say, an A2, B1 really level on the CEFR, then it could be, there's a bit of a mismatch there. But it is something that we're aware of and that we're thinking through. Rustom did pilot the content with exactly that point in mind, and we found that we were surprised to find that actually there was quite a bit of retention, because a lot of the ideas are repeated. Even within the program, you have teachers saying very similar things, but just slightly in different ways. So the key messages of the program seem to get through.
Yeah, and at the end of the program, which you didn't hear, there is a summary, a recap of everything. And also, there are plans which we're not doing in Maharashtra, but it's possible for the 15-minute program, we can start off with an introduction in the L1, We could then even, in the middle, have a summary in L1, and we could finish, at the end of the program, we could also have some sort of chat show or some sort of interaction in which people discuss that in L1. So there's plenty of opportunities to support it with L1, which we're considering.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that we want to get across is that with a resource like this, although it's very nice to be able to hold up the pack now and to say, look, this is what we've done and this is what we're doing with it, we see it as very much of an organic and ongoing process. And we're very open to learning from the experience that we have with using this resource, again, applying it to other resources that we develop in future, and continuing to refine it and to improve and to, you know, keep changing the way that we're doing things. So it's not just about throwing the content out and saying, right, that's it, thanks very much, we've done a great job and that's over. It's really about how we can continue to learn and help teachers continue with the overall objectives of the work that we do here.
Thank you. Are there any further questions either about how you can use this, any suggestions, or else questions about any aspect of the series? Any further questions?
Or do you just want to go and have coffee?
Okay, just a couple of... Okay, thank you. One second.
Did you say you had clips in it as well from actual classroom lessons, and do you have any examples?
Yes, we have some classroom examples. Teachers using activities, they discuss the activities, and then you actually hear the classroom interaction. You hear the voices of the children, and there are some, actually, what the children are saying in their groups. We've recorded that. It's in the series. I won't be able to exactly locate it right now. I'd have to listen, but I can certainly play it to you. Or if you listen to the CDs yourselves, you will find them. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, yes. And there's also a second series where we look at other topics such as teaching writing, teaching speaking. We've not forgotten these key things. They'll come in the second series. Okay? Okay, well, thank you very much. We really encourage you to use these... We really encourage you to use these worksheets, and remember, you can download them and use them as you wish.
And please do, there is a link in the back of the workbook that you have in your pack for feedback. So if you do use it, or even if there's a reason why you don't want to use it or you don't think it's suitable, please do go to that link online and give us some feedback, because again, it's all feeds into our wider review of the product. Thank you very much.
Thank you.